Hello again. Wanted to give you an overview of the layout that's currently under construction here. It's a HO layout. The prototype it's based on is the joint line in Colorado, which runs along the front range of the Rockies from Denver down to Pueblo. The portion that I model is from Denver down to Palmer Lake. The track plan that you see in front of you was used or created using the AnyRail software, which I like quite nicely. The layout on the left-hand side of the screen starts out in North Denver, makes a 90-degree turn to come into South Denver, where the Santa Fe and Burlington Northern yard is. On the far right-hand side of that is the engine facility, which are all those stub-in tracks. It makes a 180-degree turn, which is double-tracked, and then splits into two single tracks of dedicated northbound and southbound lines per the prototype. The industry that you see there is Big Lift, which was a Santa Fe intermodal facility that was used mainly in the 90s and is not all that active anymore. The line continues on, goes past Castle Rock, Colorado, Larkspur, Colorado, where there's a nice Santa Fe bridge that will eventually be modeled, and then down to Palmer Lake, Colorado, which is this area, which is where the two tracks come back together, and then also helpers that have been put on in Denver for heavy coal trains are cut out and then sent back light. Sometimes those helpers are put on in Denver, and sometimes they're put on at Big Lift, depending. So the layout is mostly operational now. The main line is in and functioning. All of the yard tracks are not in, and none of the industry tracks in Denver are in yet. But both northbound, southbound mains, Big Lift are complete. There is some hidden staging that you see back behind that connects Palmer Lake with North Denver. Right now that only consists of one track. Eventually it'll consist of three. But we'll go ahead and do a quick walk around here to show you the layout and follow a Santa Fe mixed freight that's heading south across the line. You can see here's the train coming in from hidden staging in through what will be North Denver. Eventually there'll be several industries here that will be served by the Belt Line and the Rio Grande in Denver. Come around, make a 90-degree turn, and there you can see the beginnings of the BNSF yard. We're now standing at sort of the north end of the yard and watching the train heading south, going into the south end of the yard. So this yard is jointly used by Santa Fe and Burlington Northern in the time frame that I model, which is the mid-90s, really early to mid-90s, because I model prior to the Union Pacific and BNSF mergers of the mid-90s, and I like it better when the line was jointly run by Santa Fe and Rio Grande, hence the name the joint line, and then Burlington Northern coal trains also ran over it quite a bit. So you can see it comes around. So you can see some of the engines that will eventually be running around and be sitting in the engine facility there. So as the train gets clearance, it heads out over the southbound main of the joint line, goes through the double crossovers in South Denver. Comes around the 180-degree bend on its way to Big Lift. I just completed Big Lift, and that was one of the areas that ended up changing from planning to actual construction. Initially in the planning I had 4 tracks planned for Big Lift, but then when I laid it out to test, I decided that looked too cramped, so I shortened it to 3. But then once I had the track laying there just for looks for a while, I decided that it still looked too cramped, so I shortened it to just 2 tracks for Big Lift. So the train's now passing through what would be Castle Rock on the joint line, not really modeled on there, and begins the climb up so that it can go across the bridge in Larkspur, Colorado, which is sort of will be in the area that you're seeing now. There'll be a grade crossing as it comes through Larkspur. And then there's a very large Santa Fe bridge to the south of Larkspur, which is where this will be. So I've got most of the bridge components already, but won't be able to put it up for quite a while. These are the exact rail HO bridges, which are pretty nice, and they actually match the prototype for that bridge almost exactly. So now the train begins its descent from Larkspur towards Palmer Lake. You see the northbound and southbound lines coming together. There's a small sit out here for either engines or cars that end up braking along the way. And a small runaround for back in the days when some of the coal trains had cabooses on them, and the helpers had to actually run around the caboose at the end before they ran back to Denver. And so that's what the runaround track's for. I had to modify the track arrangement a little bit here from the prototype just to get it all to fit right. But comes along, this is Palmer Lake. This is the beginnings of the lake. I've got it cut out and have the first layer of plaster in the bottom. Ended up being not as smooth as I wanted it to be, so I need to lay a second layer. And you can see the mountain there beginning to take shape behind Palmer Lake. And then the engine and the train will head along and head into hidden staging. So if this had been a coal train, it would go ahead and stop either just before or just after the road crossing, depending on the prototype, because Santa Fe and Burlington Northern and Rio Grande all did it slightly differently. But they would stop there, cut off the helpers, and then the helpers would head back light on the northbound dedicated track. So, and there it's a little bit dark, but you can see there's the beginnings of the hidden staging, which eventually there'll be several different tracks that will go on there. Right now I just have the one track to take it through. But that's the, or my, HO joint line layout. Hopefully we'll continue progress. I've only been working on it for 2 months. And started the design of this in September, or end of September, and it started construction beginning of November, and it's now the end of December. So I've been working a lot of free hours getting down here working on it, but it's coming along pretty nicely. So hopefully it'll continue, and hope you guys like it.